You know, something has been bugging me for a while now. Since this has been a slow news month for gaming, I find now to be a good time to address this. I watch anime from time to time. I've watched it for a long time, ever since the 90s in fact. I watched Goku go Super Saiyan for the first time when DBZ aired on TV for the first time. And having experienced both old and new anime like that, I noticed a few things. Some things that aren't good. Many people still seem to think Japan, being an Eastern country, is currently immune to the woes that have plagued the West for so long, but I can notice quite clearly a decay, a moral decay even, in their business practices, which often reflect in the quality of their products as well. What's been going on with Nintendo, for instance, is alarming. They were one of the few, perhaps the only remaining AAA company still making video games and not interactive movies with over-the-shoulder cameras here and there for their own consoles. But now look at them. Metroid Prime 4 was disappointing. The Switch 2 has what, 4 games? One of them being a remake, and that's still 4 more than the PS5, but still. Now they're also ramping up the cheap, pathetic, creatively bankrupt, legacy-destroying remake trend. They've already remade Star Fox for the 3rd time now, and they're going to remake what's still considered by many to be the best video game ever made, Zelda Ocarina of Time. In fact, Japan is the land of remakes now. The zlopification of their media is increasing sharply, and has been for a while now. When it comes to anime, this is very apparent to someone who's not just watched, but has lived through both eras. So let's explore in what ways anime has become extremely dogshit over the decades. The difference between the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s to the modern days in anime can't be explained simply by a change in technical approach, like switching from hand-drawn animation to digital. When anime was still hand-drawn, and for the sake of clarity, when I say hand-drawn in this video, I mean when celluloid sheets were used to paint on, so the process was fully manual up until the photographs were taken. They had a completely different feel to them, but I don't think the difference is strictly because of this, although it did start happening at the same time. Sure, they give off a different feel when you look at them compared to digital, but it's not as simple as that. The anime I will use here to make a comparison is Hunter x Hunter. Anyone who's watched both versions, 1999 and 2011, can attest to how different they are. In the 2011 version, the focus was clearly on animation smoothness. This means more frames and key moments, more animation on choreography, like flashier fights with more angles and cuts, and allegedly more faithfulness to the manga. Hunter x Hunter 1999, on the other hand, probably due to budget constraints, had less animation done on once. That version, while it still had impressive animation sometimes, where it shone was in its direction and detailed drawings. The framing of shots carrying symbolism, often employing a slower pace to really convey the message or mood to the viewer. The careful use of lighting to set the mood of a scene, using light and darkness to sub-communicate a theme or even as foreshadowing, the exact timing of scenes that went together with musical changes to create emotional roller coasters.
それがレオリオ氏とボドロ氏の試合開始と同時に
Less drawings, but more detailed ones with better shading, more lines, and interesting colors, so on and so forth. All of this contributed for this anime to feel more artful than its more modern rendition. It's not just in Hunter x Hunter where older anime attributed due importance to these things. Most old anime from the hand-drawn era did, but after the shift to fully digital animation, the cinematography gradually became an afterthought, and the animation and and faithfulness to manga panels begin to gradually take over the first priority. The drawback is that by sacrificing cinematography, things begin to look considerably goofier. And it's not like these newer anime always have better animation anyway. In fact, excluding anime from a handful of top-tier studios like MAPPA and UFO Table, most newer animations are in the same ballpark as the older ones in terms of quality. Except that when it looks bad now, it looks even worse than before. This is an effect I noticed where if you make bad animation, you apply the 12 principles badly or you don't apply them at all. But the drawings themselves look good, have good three-dimensional forms and are properly shaded, are well composed, framed and staged. The animation, even if it looks bad in movement, it won't look embarrassing. On the other hand, if the drawings look infantile, flat, lack proper shading and are framed in the most basic ways, in other words, when there's a lack of proper cinematography, these modern anime with their flat-ass, simplified styles, they not only look bad, but they feel cringeworthy to look at. Like I'm watching something made by children. The characters, they look stupid. It's hard to take the whole thing seriously. If you look at some quality memes of Fist of the North Star, where the animation is awful, it still looks less retarded than the same level of animation in modern anime because the new drawing style is just that infantile. So it's a matter of this new visual art style everybody employs now. Not because it's digital, but because it's made for babies. Oh, look at these baby colors. Look at these baby character designs. This shit is ridiculous if you take into account what we had a couple decades ago. Oh look, this random ass anime I clicked to get footage to illustrate my points doesn't look like it's made for fetuses. It's slightly better, so when the animation is shit like here, it doesn't make me die of cringe by looking at it. Again with Hunter x Hunter, I agree that 2011 has flashier and overall smoother animation on certain scenes, but due to the artwork being incredibly flatter than its older counterpart, with its lighting being flat and boring as fuck, and characters almost never having proper shading that follows the implied 3D form of the drawings. I mean, look at these drawings, the shadows at best follow the edges of the face and that's it. They don't convey any three-dimensionality. It gives this childish look to the visuals, and when the animation quality drops, it feels embarrassing to look at. Compare now the drawings of the 1999 anime and you notice how not only the shadows follow the proper 3D shape of their heads more often, but the lines themselves convey a three-dimensional shape better, which makes the drawings feel more realistic. It's like comparing Devil May Cry 3 to Devil May Cry 4. The upgrade in poly count and texture resolution in character models makes the characters seem bigger, denser, more complete in a way compared to the previous game. When it comes to games, graphics don't matter, but the only thing anime had over Western animation was how much detail each drawing had. Now it's all made for babies and with poor animations, one very bad combination specifically. This has nothing to do with anime now being digital. I've made stuff digitally that has that three-dimensionality, in Flash even. I'm not even a professional animator and I'm just one person, so what's the excuse for entire studios? One of the best comparisons I can give you is that of Rurouni Kenshin, original versus remake. And yes, I know what the author did. He deserves the wood chipper, but it doesn't make this anime any worse. I mean, just look at this. It speaks for itself. One looks respectable, the other one looks flat and childish. When one's animation quality goes down the drain, the art style itself ensures that immersion is not broken. As for the other one, if the animation goes bad, it makes me think, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Watching these drawings made by children for children. There was something about the classic version which gave it this gentle yet brutal feel to it. The way characters were drawn back then was sharper. They looked more appealing in a threatening way. Their strikes, slashes, and everything were brutal. It really conveyed how inhumanly strong they were. Nowadays, they just copy-paste the same preset speed lines and slap a camera shake on it and call it a day. The sound effects they used to add impact to a happening were pretty good and meshed well with the atmosphere of the original anime. The new ones are as bland as can be imagined. Color was entirely subordinate to lighting. If it's a sunset, the color scheme would be completely changed to reflect the lighting conditions. If it's in a dimly lit room, same thing, the colors would completely match the atmosphere. No one was afraid of deviating from the usual color palette. Meanwhile, the new version is flat. The drawings are flat, the colors are flat, the shading is flat. The backgrounds and characters look boring and flat because the lighting is the same in every scene. The overall hue changes only because they slap a fucking filter on top. There's no congruence. It's cheap. It's soulless. And these two examples so far are not isolated cases being remakes. They reflect the current mindset of the whole industry towards art like this. Almost every modern anime suffers from these issues. That's why all of them feel samey. Oh look, this one came out just today, the 4th of July. Let's see, the first episode. Let's see. Bright baby pastel colors. Check. It's like they're all afraid of contrast and shadows now. It all has to be super bright for the babies. Flat as fuck colors and shading. Check. Flat ass line work that doesn't convey the 3D form properly. Check. Wide angle shots with barely to no animation, where characters just yap for 10 seconds. Check. Character designs that look pretty much the same as every other fucking anime with no originality. Check. Zero atmosphere because the lighting conditions don't change the color palette more than 10%. Check. Direction that always puts the camera straight on the characters, never trying to create interesting cuts with subtext. No cinematography. Check. Well, I just described every single modern anime's art style, barring one or two somewhere out there. It's all the same shit. Meanwhile, Yu Yu Hakusho felt considerably different from Rurouni Kenshin, which in turn felt considerably different from DBZ, which was considerably different from Fist of the North Star, Saint Seiya, Hunter x Hunter, even though most of them took inspiration from each other, because back then the art direction had soul and was not the same copy-pasted generic schematic that permeates the whole industry now. The modern, streamlined way to frame shots is also garbage and flat, barring high-budget fight scenes where the choreography goes nuts with hacking Sakuga, whatever the fuck animation style, also known as ADHD brain rot in animation form, which uses crazy camera angles and shit. Everything else looks too straightforward. So the overall animation quality is somehow worse nowadays, all for the sake of directing all the budget to fight scenes that have no substance and are only flashy to create hype. But how were anime fights before the advent of the current iPad kid ADHD generation? Let's see. One thing that bothers me about this state of modern anime is what they've done to the fights. Once again prioritizing only the shallowest and flashiest of aspects. Fights nowadays are mostly made for the sake of hype and excitement and have no real narrative substance. Obviously this is not an absolute rule, but the major tendency is looking horrible. Complain as you wish about how DBZ had unnecessarily drawn out fights, some of which lasted for dozens of episodes, but they were exciting not because they were about two characters punching each other bombastically while excitingly epic music played in the background and you could brag to your mentally challenged friends on the internet about how your favorite character is stronger than their favorite character. They were exciting because the fights themselves were a developing plot. Unlike today's fights, which feel like they're just there to showcase the skill of the animators and contribute nothing to the ongoing plot of the anime. Let's go over one of the most fundamental fights, also one of the best, Goku vs Vegeta in the Saiyan saga of DBZ. It was a slow fight, and granted with a lot of exposition and filler, which is not necessarily a bad thing as we'll talk about later. But it wasn't just a fight, it was more like a war. The whole arc up to that point was building up to this moment. Everybody was just trying to survive until Goku showed up. There was a lot of tension already before the enemies even arrived, but the tension was ramped up even higher because the characters everybody came to know through Dragon Ball were dropping like flies one after the other, and this isn't even the main event yet. After Goku arrives and he and Vegeta start their fight, it's then structured in phases, each phase posing a problem for the main character to solve, then moving on to the next phase where a new problem was posed by the villain Vegeta, and Goku once again had to find a new strategy as his stamina was slowly drained, so it was a fight against time as well. Once on the third phase or so, Vegeta turned into a great ape, and that phase's problem was too much for Goku to solve, so he is defeated. The solution comes through his allies who come back to help him. Now it's their turn to finish the fight, and so the problems pose themselves to him. For instance, Vegeta was still too much for them, even back to normal. So the solution was to throw a spirit bomb, a plan that almost fails because smaller problems pose themselves all the time for it to create an emotional roller coaster. They successfully hit the spirit bomb, but Vegeta perseveres, still in better condition than everybody. So the solution to this phase's problem is when Goku tells Gohan to look at the fake moon to turn into a giant ape, and that ends the fight. Finally, everybody's almost dead. They were almost completely drained halfway through the fight, and you could feel how grueling the stakes were. A lot of plot elements were developed during the fight. Threads were closed, like Goku finding out that he was the giant monster that killed his own grandpa. Goku got too wrecked to go to Namek with everybody else afterwards, which set up the whole mechanic for the next arc, having a lot of survival, stealth, and strategizing with the weaker characters, so on and so forth. You can even see some of this in modern anime that adapted older mangas sometimes. Everybody vs. Dio in JoJo's Part 3 spans 4 episodes and also has a progression through many phases of problem posing and problem solving. However, like many modern anime, it too suffers from the same problems related to direction and lack of cinematography. Nowadays, fights serve only one purpose, and that is to hype you up. They're eye candy at best when the animation is good. They may as well be entirely skipped though. There's no substance. It's like an AMV. Slap some badass music and just play fighting animation. And the zoomies and Gen Alpha hood weebs clap like seals. The vapidness of the young normies of today has never before been seen. Shit like solo leveling is some of the worst in this regard. There's no build up, the fights happen, there are barely any new developments or progression. Then the fight ends, and for the overall plot or story, it made no difference. It's a waste of time essentially. Don't forget that as much as you understand how bad this piece of shit is, normies love it. They consume this shit like instant noodles. It is a commercial success. The Jujutsu Kaisen author even made a fucking parody of real life weebs treating his own fights like games of goiball, betting on who will win and lose like fucking hell. And that's precisely how the audience of these animes treat these fights. It's like UFC. It's not about a story. I'm at the point where if I see an anime has fucking Sakuga in it, it becomes an instant pass. It's a very reliable indicator of an anime being shit. The new Baki is one of the worst examples of this. Baki used to have a story, and it was quite good in the old anime, Baki the Grappler. But after the Maximum Tournament ends, all the fights turn into comparisons of strength. Some fights raise the stakes, which are an actual breath of fresh air to see stakes unseen since the Maximum Tournament, but when it comes to the anime, the animation is laughable. Most of it's just colored manga panels with speed lines and animated hair to pretend things are in motion. It's so shit. Most often the art is considerably worse than the source material's art, so there aren't even any positive trade-offs. And what the hell happened to character writing and designs? Back then we used to have based masculine protagonists. We had Goku who grew up, married, and had children. We had Kenshiro who would simply murder evil people and criminals. You wouldn't find any bullshit gray areas or moral relativism at all in his anime. Yusuke would beat the shit out of literal trannies and then call out their bullshit to their faces just for style points. Kaneda from Akira was a brave and confident dude, leader of his bike gang, a regular guy who could face off against a demigod just through confidence alone. Kenshin, although his no-kill philosophy was pretty fucking retarded, did not take shit from anybody and would impose respect on anyone trying to fuck with him and his friends. Female characters in anime that were made for young men were mostly support characters who cheered and supported the male main characters. They were gentle and were not girl bossy, so they weren't insufferable. They had strength, but their strength was gentle, supportive, and feminine. Some of them were kind of girl bossy, but since they were only supporting characters and were bossy for comedic purposes mostly, it wasn't that insufferable, and it was even a little realistic, at least for women of our times. Probably because these old manga authors had experience with real women and got to know it's not a fairy tale of only cuteness like these stupid anime full of waifus try to give you the impression of. On the other hand, if people are exposed to this fantastical idea of flawless, cute waifus who never have a temper like Chi-Chi, who are never selfish as fuck like Bulma, and who are also strong and skillful and just as able as the men in combat, are extremely important for the plot and have as much protagonism as the twink of a male protagonist that every single modern anime has. The fantastical way they write women can be damaging to the young men who watch their anime. There's a reason why troons love to use anime girl avatars and PFPs online. But what sort of protagonists do we have now? A bunch of twinks who simp for their strong female partners in adventure and excuse their shitty behavior just because they're cute. They're all doormats. Seriously, what kind of example does that fat from Sword Art Online make for watchers? That you should treat women equally as men because they are just as strong and independent? What does Jujutsu Troon-sen teach its hoodweed fanbase? That women should be stoic, dominant, and badass, and that young males should be clueless, aimless, and insecure like the main character is. You're taught that the ultimate male fantasy is to have a harem that doesn't go anywhere because you should treat attractive women like friends and hang around them all the time while remaining too scared to make a move on any of them and having them lead the goddamn dynamic. So let's do an experiment. I'm gonna describe an anime for you and I want you to guess which one I'm talking about. In this anime, the main character starts off living an alright life. Not the best, they have some dissatisfaction or two, but they're surviving. They have someone to rely on and lean on. But then one day, tragedy strikes. They lose their support character they used to lean on and they're fucked. Then they're picked up by a group and they start to learn and work with this group. At first they're looked down on by their seniors, but slowly they learn, they get stronger, and then one day they meet another group, another faction, this opposing group of antagonists, which already had their eyes on the good guys for some reason, has a veiled interest in the main character because there's something special about the MC that they want. Eventually they end up getting this thing, which helps them greatly against the protagonists. Then at some point, both factions clash. The protagonist's special snowflake characteristic plays its part. They end up surpassing everybody else, blah blah blah. Well, if you guessed every single modern fucking shonen anime, you got it right. No, really, it's not all of them. And there's even some seinen that fit that bill, with one or two details being different, but roughly that's the formula. And it's a tiresome one, holy fuck. And they always have their little mental struggles, their internal turmoil to sort out, guilt, grief over what happened, and everything that goes wrong from that point on is enough for them to have an existential crisis. Yeah, man. They're trying to find their place and their purpose in life, and that's a big deal in the story. What happened to characters who had a shred of a backbone, who had internal issues to sort out, sure, but who wouldn't keep moping over everything bad that ever happened as if it was all their fault all the time before they even established themselves as respectable characters? It's all so saturated with this garbage, man. You know what's worse? When the main characters are this shitty, it falls on the side characters to be good. But then you have fucking retards like the author of JJK who did this exact fucking formula, and then he kills off the actually good side characters that have good motivations and good personalities. Isn't that great? Aren't modern anime and manga so good? It's almost like there's thousands of years of knowledge on how to write, yet these guys want to reinvent the wheel and completely break the fucking carriage in the process. And lastly, the number of manga that have a distinct iconic art style has dwindled drastically. Everything looks mostly the same now. You could tell Toriyama's style at a glance, Togashi's style at a glance. Even an untrained eye who doesn't know in detail every single manga author out there could. Same thing for Kurumada, Kentaro Miura's. Nowadays, there's no originality, dude. It's like modern manga authors just emulate their idols' styles and never try to develop a style of their own, nor do they try to surpass their inspirations. Man, Jujutsu Kaisen looks uglier than Hunter x Hunter, even though Togashi has a crippling back problem that's killing him. I'll give it to Demon Slayer, at least it got its visual identity down. That's the only recognizable modern one, and I've been looking, dude. Everything else looks like a copy of something else I already know. These retarded weebs of nowadays, they hold their authors as gods, infallible people. Manga authors are regular human beings, dude. Which is exactly why I miss when anime had filler. Not all of it, of course, a lot of it was garbage, but there were some filler which helped enhance the anime over the manga, like the Hunter x Hunter 1999 ones. The Battleship Island mini-arc is filler, which may or may not have been overseen by Togashi himself, but regardless, there was so much soul put into this mini-arc. It's better than any of the Hunter x Hunter movies, and it's better than a lot of the canon stuff. They even made a unique piece of soundtrack for it, which is quite good, and they never used it again. The way everybody is made to cooperate in order to survive in this arc, only to then have to fight each other in the very next arc, something the manga doesn't set up. It helps sell how unhinged the Hunter Association is, and also that whole world. It's not contradictory to anything, and enhances the world building and characters. Not to mention, these episodes are probably the best fillers ever made in any anime. And other than filler, there's also creative liberties studios take when adapting manga to anime. They have the benefit of hindsight after all. Any problems or things that could be improved upon should be, and they were, in a lot of old anime. As long as care and respect for the source material are there, it can be made greater through animation. In Rurouni Kenshin, we have both bad and good examples of this. It has a lot of silly filler episodes, not far off from the beginning of the anime, which can be either funny and cozy, or complete shit depending on who watches them. But then from episode 28 and forward, the anime gets insanely good because of all the creative liberties they took. The cinematography is top-notch. Throughout this entire arc, the tone of the anime turns a lot darker. The pacing improves tremendously. Shots are framed with subtext. Little details are added. Music is placed perfectly to enhance the shot or moment. And the soundtrack is some of the best ever made for anime. It was made with passion and soul, and so it improved on the manga. The anime in this case did what every anime is supposed to do to their mangas. Expand on the experience and make it better. That's what creative liberty in a medium that's more complex is supposed to achieve. That's the whole purpose. This is why I find it extremely silly when weebs hold faithfulness to the manga as the highest standard. Tell that to the creator of Bleach, who's now fixing his fucking manga through the anime, dude. Filler and creative liberties are often shit, but there are times when they improve the manga. Deal with it. If I wanted to watch an exact copy of the manga, I'd just read the fucking manga, you mental retards. This is not the same as a remake. It's not overriding the original in its own medium. It's adapting it to a different medium. You could argue then that one can't be better than the other, which I guess you're right. Even better then, anime has more of a reason to expand on the manga. It's too bad modern anime has now become so strict with this. We ended up with an almost total slideshow fest. We have those who defend remakes because they're allegedly more faithful, even though it's almost always barely the case. When their pacing is horrible, their atmosphere is non-existent, their music and music timing sucks, and is just there to fill the empty space inside the heads of modern hoodweebs. But it's all fine because it puts the manga panels up on the screen roughly in the same order as the manga. Wow, really incredible, guys. Nice standards you have there. And speaking of music, the same thing that happened to video games happened to anime in the audio department. Modern anime music sucks. It's all the same. I can't remember when was the last time I watched an anime that made me go to YouTube to listen to the OST again. There's not a theme I can't remember because they don't make themes anymore. They make music because it's necessary, because nobody wants to be alone with their thoughts. So there are no recognizable themes. Same fucking orchestra shit. Same little piano trying to be cute. Fuck off. Synthesizer sounds have pretty much disappeared. God, everything is so generic nowadays. Anime lost its ability to create an atmosphere, an affliction that video games also caught. Guess what? The Japanese, they make anime and they also make a lot of video game. What is this? A pattern is emerging? Yu Yu Hakusho Chapter Black Saga. 3.5 decades later almost. Still top 1 anime atmospheres in an arc. No debate. It's not Death Note, it's not Attack on Titan, it's not Frieren, it's not the Chimera Ants arc. It's top notch because it's all cohesive. The eerie soundtrack went together with the eerie visuals. The placement of the ambience music was very good. They somehow made the darker tone of the arc feel completely at home in a shonen anime about fighting ogres and demons and what the antagonists managed to do. So the good guys is something special, especially coming out of the previous arc. I might need to make a video on this one day. Over 3 decades, dude. What are we doing? Where has the soul gone? Where has the passion gone? Take Berserk 1997 for instance. It's an anime with poor animation, cut content, and a small soundtrack with just 8 tracks, not counting the opening, ending, and the next episode preview tracks. Yet this soundtrack requires no comment. Everybody knows how good it is. Guts' theme became, for better or for worse, a fucking internet meme. Normies know about it even though they have no idea what the fuck Berserk even is. But what do we have now? Take JJK, one of the most glazed Sakuga slop to ever exist. An anime with nothing but hype behind everything it presents. Perfect for black people and hoodweebs who speak in Ebonics and Zoomer gobbledygook. Its OST is utterly all over the place. But pick any track from its humongous OST at random and you'll think, what the fuck am I even listening to? Is this really the soundtrack for the same goddamn anime? You have horror ambience, then right next to it you have funk rock, then you have cringe rap, then cutesy high-pitched piano shit. It has no fucking clue what it wants to be. It's a mishmash of everything that's modern and tiresome. It has no cohesion with the scenes it goes with. It has no identity and is therefore utterly forgettable. Honestly, it all sounds improvised. They kept making track after track to fit the newest scene they had animated or something. Honestly, if it kind of fits. Same thing for Chainsaw Man, another sloppy product whose only appeal lies in its shock value. Yeah, man. Those who unironically enjoy this shit, it's fine. It's fine. Just don't complain about Goy Ball or Fortnite in front of me ever again. Then there's sound design. The one thing you can notice about every single modern anime is how in your face the voices are now. The audio mixing is goddamn awful. The characters' voices are too dry, compressed, in your face compared to everything else. They feel like they're in front while everything else is in the background.
どなたです?
いや、
経を唱える声が聞こえたもんで。
死んだ村人たちの供養をしていたのです。そなたはこの里の疫病をご存じないのか？
いろいろ質問がありそうだな。なぜ私だけが自由なのか聞きたいな。
It's not just in this one random anime, it's in every one of them nowadays. It sounds like they record with the microphone so close to their mouths, they might as well be deep-throating it. That's fine for podcasts and voiceovers and shit, but for characters situated in an environment where you'd expect sound to bounce, be occluded and modulated at least a little bit, it sounds extremely artificial. The sound effects that are used nowadays sound way less unique and much more processed than back then. Anime used to have some pretty cool sounds for tech, explosions, and things like that. Nowadays they sound much more mundane. The only thing I know in the modern day that comes close to this is the sound design of JoJo's, the anime that used to be good but now is extremely homosexual. There are plenty of videos on YouTube showcasing those sounds, and although some of those pretty much get there, they still lack that personality the old sound effects had, but they get pretty close though, and that's, to me at least, it's good enough. But it's the only example I can think of. I've watched a ton of modern shit, and excluding this one instance, there's nothing that stands out, whether by being unique or just being good to listen to. The modern sound design is just that bland. Now, of course, I didn't go over some of this stuff, like, for instance, the sheer amount of garbage, slice of life trash they shit out every season. High school romance slop, because high school is the only time in a Japanese man's life where they had any joy. Afterwards, they are made to work like slaves for the rest of their lives. It's tragic. Or isekai and high fantasy trash. And I say trash not because I have something against fantasy, but because the concentration of trash in this genre in particular is absurd. Things whose titles are some wacky sentence instead of an actual concise title, full of waifus as well. Absolutely embarrassing. If I want to jack off, I'll go to a porn site. At least it gets to the point quick instead of dilly-dallying around a sorry excuse for a story. I mean, is it even worth talking about all this slop? It's not like in the old days there was no slop at all, but the slop from back then was much better than the slop of today, I guarantee you. Shit that was bad back then, you can see just from the art style, the thumbnails, the illustrations. Most of them failed, but they were actually trying back then. Today, it's a giant faucet of shit. They have no standards. They don't even try. It's just slop for you to consume one after the other without end. There were far less anime released per season back then, but the amount there is now, and some of them being really popular, you would turn on the TV in the 90s and you would not see this type of shit. This type of trash was not allowed to see the light of day. Literally, it would play very late in the morning on a channel or two, or they were there in the distant corners of the early internet. But now we see all this slop on full display on YouTube, My Anime List, on the front page, in the top 100 ranking, which says you should never take the rating of an anime seriously. It's better to just look at the cover. Yes, you look at the cover and judge it. And interestingly, I'm always right. I see a bunch of colorful waifus on the cover. Instantly trash. Doesn't matter if it's an 8 or a 9 out of 10. I try to watch it to see what the fuss is about, and it's all stomach turning bad. Let's see, dude. Let's see what I'm fucking missing. Let's read the synopsis. At the renowned Shujin Academy, this person and this person are the student body's top representatives. Blah 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 blah. They are the envy of the entire student body, regarded as the perfect couple. Oh wow. However, despite both having already developed feelings for the other, neither are willing to admit them. Oh wow. What a conflict What an interesting conflict, what a narrative. The first to confess loses will be looked down upon and will be considered the lesser. It's almost like every single other anime of this genre, a fabricated issue without which this entire plot wouldn't even need to exist. Guys, learn from this anime. You gotta make your love life as convoluted as possible, because women love to play games and you have to satisfy their every whim. With their honor and pride at stake, whatever, are both equally determined to be the one to emerge victorious on the battlefield of love. Oh my god. If you are a man and you unironically enjoyed this shit by yourself, even without even a woman to watch it with you, which is the only excuse imaginable, then just take HRT, just start your transitioning journey and schedule already your genital mutilation surgery. First off, I've seen enough of what people consider to be funny to laugh at 9gag tier shit if they didn't know it was from 9gag. The funniest thing to me is how people who seem to have high standards when it comes to games and politics have standards lower than the bottom of a gutter when it comes to anime. Anime where cute moe girls do silly things in a mundane daily scenario are not funny. It's more likely that weebs were simply conditioned to laugh at them. Plus, there's another side to this, one even worse. American Krogan recently put out a video on Pragmata where he argues the relationship between Hugh and Diana is not only never going to add anything to anyone's lives or improve society in any way, shape, or form, something I already understood back when I made my own video on it, but he also added that the intent behind this type of media is for it to act as a surrogate. It's there as a surrogate to insert something in your life which you don't have, except it's artificial, fake, and gay, like demons from the tech industry pushing AI to try to solve the male loneliness epidemic that way, which is never going to work. It goes without saying. And guess what cutesy comedy anime, this slice of life trash, isekai harem shit that attempts to be funny, guess what that is? They're the worst type of escape from reality there is. Porn gets you satisfied and comfortable and demotivates you from trying to get a real woman and having a family. Likewise, cute girls in anime give you a superficial release of endorphins in your brain, which make you not feel like getting real friends, a real woman, a satisfying lifestyle, and everything else that follows. There's a reason these types of anime nowadays are the most widespread garbage there is. The market for lonely men unsatisfied with their lives, especially the types who are prone to and willingly submit themselves to be manipulated by VTubers while swearing up and down they're better than simps who simp for e-thoughts, while their favorite VTubers are getting railed on stream right in their faces, is ginormous. So these anime that have no story, no plot, no interesting characters or character dynamics, they are all the same exact thing, just with a different skin age. They keep poisoning the well more and more. This type of shit was not a thing in the 90s, man, much less the 80s. Anime where nothing ever happens. How fun, how engaging. Why would I ever watch anime that's pretty much the same as boring and monotonous real life, just with added unfunny attempts at comedy and characters designed for gooning? That's the kind of crap you have to sift through nowadays to find something even worth watching a single episode of. Then you have to waddle through the generic shit I went over through most of the video. And then maybe, just maybe, once every other year or so, you can find a modern gem. It's no wonder people with actual standards say that the average anime is like a 4 out of 10, and they're right. To find things that score higher than a 6, you need to go back in time. I'll never be fooled by this shit. If this type of garbage story was told in a live action movie or TV show, none of these weebs would bat an eyelash at it. Yet, because anime has cute 2D drawings of girls, their brains instantly turn to feces and they become full-blown, unashamed consumers. The same type of people a lot of them claim to hate. And it's not like I don't indulge myself in slop. I watch a bunch of shitty horror movies sometimes, and I eat shitty food from time to time as well. But I know these things are shit. I'll never recommend them to anyone, and if someone calls me out, I won't be mad, they'll be completely correct. But these weebs, it's like you're offending their honor if you point out how shitty these modern anime are. Have some fucking self-awareness. I'm fully aware that this video might alienate a portion of my own audience. I know a lot of you guys don't like tranime, and I also know a lot of you like this trash I went over, but it needs to be said, I grew up on anime, and considering how shit Western media has become, for a while Eastern media had the stuff I was looking for, but that seems to be pretty much gone as well. Every other season there was still something worth watching, but that seems to be less and less the case as time goes on. Don't watch modern anime, it rots your brain, it lowers your standards and turns you into a shameless consuming automaton. Don't cave in to pressure, don't try to fit in with subhumans who delight in this garbage. There's a lot of good, less known stuff from the past to watch. It's the same thing as with video games. I might just drop modern anime altogether because there's nothing worth watching nowadays. I'm tired of the overused trope of faction versus faction dynamics with a special snowflake main character who just airdrops in the middle of that conflict so they can solve all the dilemmas in the world at the end after they're revealed to be super duper special. I dropped JJK, that Gachiakuta anime, that stupid anime about gangs and time travel, and just recently that witch anime that seemed good at first glance because of this. I almost dropped Attack on Titan after it turned out it was all about this, which was when it turned to shit, but the sunk cost fallacy spoke louder in that case. I didn't go over all the CGI garbage that seems to have become more common now. It's not necessary. One glance and you know the truth of how bad it is. What's not clear to me is why, after the fiasco that was Berserk 2016 and 2017, the Japs still employ that visual sewage. Who the fuck is giving them positive feedback on that? There also seems to be a lot of Chinese slop. Weird stuff strangely rated really high. Probably because of Chinese bot farms. Needless to say, it's all trash as well. And there is good reason to call it tranime. Again, it's no coincidence that Troons love to use anime girl avatars and PFPs everywhere. Shit like this, it feminizes you. I keep my sanity in check by avoiding the toxic sludge. Here's one more reliable indicator of toxic sludge. If an anime or its weeb fanbase abbreviates the name to something stupid like Snafu, Konosuba, anything like that, you do well to avoid it. All these waifus the weebs love are written and drawn by old sweaty men in a cramped office or bedroom. None of their personalities reflect how women are or ever were, and that shit reprograms your brain if it gets exposed to it repeatedly without awareness and a critical filter. And next thing you know, you're shaving your legs and wearing... No, I don't want to picture it. It's pretty much the same story as with games. Back then, I'd go to a video game store and on the shelves for the SNES, N64, PS1, PS2, GameCube, PS3, Xbox 360 were a myriad, and I mean several dozens of great games, many of them masterpieces. Every year, multiple groundbreaking games would come out. Where are those now? They're nowhere in sight. We're lucky if we get one masterpiece for a platform in an entire generation. With anime, it's the same thing. In the 80s and 90s, we got a shit ton of genuinely good stuff. Fist of the North Star, Akira, Saint Seiya, Dragon Ball, Yu Yu Hakusho, Hunter x Hunter, Rurouni Kenshin, Cowboy Bebop, Ghibli stuff like Princess Mononoke, early Baki, Berserk, just off the top of my head. What's good now? Frieren, an anime that's designed to cure insomnia? JJK, a much worse Hunter x Hunter with a retarded author who writes characters he hates? Chainsaw Troon, a series where every character is a psychotic BPD freak? Nah man, I'm good on that shit. Enjoy losing brain matter and pieces of your soul every time you watch all that dog shit. Unless you think the thing on the right looks as good as the thing on the left, in which case it's over for you. Your eyes and brain, they don't function anymore. You might as well just find a nice bridge, you know? Yeah, that's it for the video. I appreciate the members, you chuds are cool. Thank you. I think I'll do a Silent Hill video again before Silent Detroit Brothers in the Hood comes out. I won't say more than that for now. I'll think of a theme for it. And I'll see you next stream probably. Peace.